What's Up Taiwan? I'm Laurel Stewart with the news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The Group of Seven Nations may be taking a tougher stance on China and increasing their support for Taiwan. That's based on a statement from their latest summit. Tiffany Wong has more.
A tough new statement from the Group of Seven Nations, made up of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US, removing key language on China from its annual post-summit communique in Quebec. The 2025 statement repeats wording from previous years supporting peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues. However, it leaves out previous references to the One China policy, which acknowledges Beijing as the sole representative of China. It also does not say their position on Taiwan has not changed. But the statement also made some concessions in regards to China, leaving out references to human rights abuses in Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong, something the group had in previous years called a major concern. The changes mirror a February joint statement between Japan and the US, which condemned any attempt to change the status quo in the Taiwan Strait by force or coercion. The G7 foreign ministers' shift in stance is likely to attract a response from China, which is sensitive to possible changes in the One China policy. But for Taiwan, actions may speak louder than words, and having the G7 nations support in writing may only be half of what Taiwan needs in the face of growing Chinese pressure on the country. Justin Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
China's embassy in Canada says the G7 statement is filled with arrogance, prejudice, and malicious intentions meant to attack China. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council says China's anti-secession law is just another attempt to undermine Taiwan's sovereignty.
这些法律对于我们台湾人民都没有任何的拘束力，同时呢，也不会改变中华民国作为主权国家的事实，那只会造成两岸人民的对立，还有激化彼此的敌意。
The MAC's statement comes as China marks 20 years since passing the law, which allows Beijing to use non-peaceful means to stop so-called secessionist forces in Taiwan. A top Chinese Communist Party official used the anniversary to push for unification and warn against Taiwan independence. The MAC says Beijing is using legal tactics to pressure Taiwan. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has made his first appearance at the International Criminal Court for a preliminary trial. While his counsel attempted to delay the proceedings over health concerns, Duterte made the initial appearance after receiving medical clearance. Gino Lopez reports.
Exactly 3 years after he withdrew the Philippines from the International Criminal Court, a frail Rodrigo Duterte makes an appearance at The Hague, facing charges for crimes against humanity in connection to his drug war. Despite seemingly being shown an arrest warrant in the Philippines prior to his extradition to The Hague, his lawyer tells the ICC judge no warrant was shown, calling his arrest unlawful and a form of political score settling by Philippine authorities.
To us lawyers, this would be called an extrajudicial rendition. To the less legally inclined, it was a pure and simple kidnapping.
Prosecutors are accusing the former Philippine president of carrying out systemic attacks against the civilian population during his time in office, after he launched a brutal war on drug gangs and addicts. Outside the ICC, both critics and supporters of Duterte gather. While many decry his drug war as a violation of human rights, pro-Duterte supporters insist that his actions were justified and helped improve the Philippines' security. His daughter, current Philippine Vice President Sara Duterte, was also seen addressing her family's supporters, assuring them of his well-being and delivering a message of encouragement from her father.
Sabihin mo sa kanila, relax lang, may hangganan ng lahat. There will be a day of reckoning for all.
But for families of the victims of Duterte's policy, it's the former president's day of reckoning they are looking forward to. Holding photos of their deceased loved ones, they watch the proceedings closely from thousands of kilometers away in the Philippines. Here they recount how family members were taken from them and continue to echo calls for justice nearly a decade since the killings began.
We want to see from ICC is that Rodrigo Duterte, to pay up for his crimes against humanity, crimes against the Filipino people, for the 30,000 and more victims of extrajudicial killings.
The ICC has set the next hearing to confirm the charges 6 months from now, on the 23rd of September. While the families of the victims look for closure, Duterte still remains popular among many Filipinos, with his arrest further dividing the Philippines between those calling for his conviction and those calling for his return home. Andy Xue and Gino Lopez for TaiwanPlus.
Fake news campaigns on social media are spreading disinformation regarding Duterte's arrest and the case against him. Reese Ayres spoke to Celine Sampson from Vera Files, a Manila-based non-profit news and fact-checking organization, for more.
We've seen a lot of fake news circulating online, particularly in relation to Duterte's recent arrest. What form does this misinformation take in the Philippines, and what channels are being abused?
There are a lot of forms that the disinformation surrounding Duterte's arrest have taken. I mean, every single day since then, we have received tips from Filipinos on posts from social media that they want us to fact check. So a lot of them are text posts. We have also seen a number of videos that have been taken out of context. And a lot of fake quote cards as well. That is a staple in disinformation in the Philippines. It's an easy hundreds of thousands of Filipinos that the disinformation pieces or campaigns are reaching.
And do we know if these misinformation campaigns are centralized or organized? Where are they coming from?
I'm not so sure yet about how organized it is. I mean, I would say that there is probably some bit of organization there. Some of the claims have come from YouTube channels that we have fact-checked in the past. And oftentimes, I mean, there are studies that prove that in the Philippines, disinformation is a business. But then there are also a lot of claims that, appear to have been shared or published by regular Filipinos. There have been some that have come from elsewhere. I would say we still have to do a bit of digging to see if there has been some foreign interference there.
A recent survey from Social Weather Station reported that almost 60% of Filipinos surveyed recognized that misinformation was a problem on the internet. Is that an encouraging figure? And are people becoming more media literate?
A lot of people now use the term fact-checking and also fake news or misinformation, disinformation. So there is awareness, but how confident they are in detecting disinformation, misinformation, that's where the problem is. It's such a huge problem in the Philippines. Like, it affects whether or not people take vaccines or who they vote for in the elections. When it comes to media literacy, you don't immediately see the results, I would say. It takes quite some time for you to see if there's behavior change. But at least you equip students, you equip teachers with the skills to identify misinformation and disinformation, to think more critically about what they see online.
That was Celine Sampson from Vera Files, a Philippine non-profit news and fact-checking organization. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he has heard calls from US President Donald Trump to spare the lives of thousands of trapped Ukrainian soldiers in Russian region of Kursk.
Для эффективной реализации призыва президента США необходим соответствующий приказ военно-политического руководства Украины своим воинским подразделениям сложить оружие и сдаться в плен.
Russia says it has surrounded remaining Ukrainian troops in Kursk, where Ukraine launched a counter-offensive last year, hoping to gain an upper hand against Russia's years-long invasion. Kyiv denies its troops are trapped, but says the situation is very difficult. Trump says he's optimistic a ceasefire deal will be agreed.
I'm very concerned about the field. In the field, there's a very vulnerable group of Ukrainian soldiers right now that are actually surrounded. And that's not good because we don't want them to die. Enough people have died. So we'll see what happens with regard to all of it. But I'm getting, from the standpoint about a ceasefire and ultimately a deal, some pretty good vibes coming out of Russia.
US officials have been working with Moscow to negotiate a ceasefire deal for Ukraine. You might not expect a lot of pep and verve at a funeral, but in central Taiwan, an all-female marching band is playing the old hits for the newly departed. Jonathan Kaplan has the story.
There's no sports victory, no grand opening. Today, like most days they work, the Dazhong Women's Band is playing a funeral.
乐队它的作用也就是说，有时候热闹一点也对了，因为年纪有了，年纪上了80几岁才会这样。你要是50、60岁，一般人不敢这样，会被人家笑，讲说那么年轻走了，你还那么虚张。
Brass, drums, miniskirts, and twirling batons may seem out of place at a somber ceremony, but as joyful celebrations of life gain popularity at funerals in the West, Taiwan's spin on sending off the deceased is already a tradition. Band leader Xu Yazi married into it.
大众女子乐团是早期是婆婆在她23岁的时候成立的，然后我是后来嫁到我婆家这边，然后接婆婆的工作这样子，所以大众女子乐团应该，我大概算一下，应该有50年的历史。
The work has its demands. Band members are no strangers to the wee hours. Preparations sometimes beginning well before dawn.
今天早上是4点半出发，他们大概就是要提早10分钟到集合地点集合。
Despite the rigors of playing in a funeral marching band, band commander Huang Shiyu doesn't like to complain.
现在年轻人比较怕，就是没办法早起啊，最困难。但是其实只要习惯就好了，对，不然其实我觉得音乐这种东西好像说困难也没有到很困。
With one of the lowest birth rates in the world, Taiwan is set to become a super-aged society in 2025, meaning more than 20% of the population will be aged 65 or older. Demand for flashy funerals may rise with the aging populace. Band leader Xu hopes young musicians will continue the tradition.
这种工作是需要有年轻人传承，对，因为这种工作是要有活力才有办法展现出来的一种工作嘛，对啊，所以说我还是很希望鼓励年轻人可以加入我们的行列。
过程一定会很辛苦，但是当你成功的时候，你会觉得这辛苦是值得的，对。
If you happen to live to a ripe old age in central Taiwan, your next of kin may someday call upon the Dazhong Women's Band to march you away to a different beat. Dolphine Chen and Jonathan Kaplan for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, take a look at this silent museum party in Paris. It's part of the Museum of Illusion's 5th anniversary celebrations. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.